We were looking at activity-based costing. We saw why we need activity-based costing. We saw where it is relevant. It is relevant when the overheads are fairly high because we need to get a price, particularly when the pricing need to be very competitive, pricing need to be very aggressive. We need to have good costing, and for good costing, surely activity-based is the better method. Basically, what activity-based does is it looks at your overheads and it gives a better kind of a way to allocate or apportion the overheads rather than the way that we use traditionally through machine hours and labor hours. Basically, what you do is it's a 5-step approach. First of all production overheads, we group it into what we call activities, and that is what we call cost pools. And for each of those cost pools, we have to identify the cost driver. There can be many cost drivers, but we must identify the most appropriate cost driver, and then we will find out per cost driver the consumption of overheads. And that we will have to absorb into the activity cost. And by doing that one to the step 4, what we do is we take only the overhead cost. Now I want you to be careful. Sometimes the examiner might ask you only to apportion to find out the overhead portion. But sometimes the examiner might ask you to calculate the full production cost. In that case, you must remember step 4 is not good enough. You have to go beyond the step 4 and at the direct cost, direct materials, direct labor, then only we will get the full production cost. Now, there can be a step 6 also where they ask not only for the full production cost, where they ask for total cost. Because it's only not only the production that matters, beyond the production we have to look at things like overheads, the administrative overheads, selling overheads. Even though we may not directly attribute it or directly apportion it to the product, we have to recover all that from our selling price. So whenever we sell something, not just recover in the full production cost is not good enough. The recovery should be good enough to absorb our selling and distribution cost, to absorb our administrative cost, to absorb our finance cost, and also to have a profit after tax also. So we have to be very careful with our P2 examiner. P2 examiner can confuse us. Sometimes in the activity-based costing, she might ask you just to say the overhead cost, or she might ask you to work out 2 ways, the traditional overhead cost and the activity-based overhead cost, and to comment or not to really comment in the short paper, but they might put certain answers and to say whether this answer is right or that answer is right. But at times, she puts up a nasty question asking for the full production cost, and in the answers, she might give you an answer which has the overhead cost also as an answer. So for example, they might give answer A, 430. 430, you will work it out, that is the overhead cost. But what she is asking is not that one, she is asking for the full production cost. In that case, you have to add the direct materials, direct labor. There will be another answer saying 720. So the moment you say 430, if you can put a tick, that's not right. Later on, we will talk about the exam techniques, but I just want to tell you a few things at this moment. One is, you remember there are 60 questions. What we normally do is, I'm sure you would have done this paper once you did it. You would have had certain questions you find, maybe question number 1 easy. Question number 2, you will do it later. So what you do is you unflag or you flag the question and you go to the question number 3. You go to the question number 4, 5, and then you might flag the 7 and go online doing that. That's the right way to do. And then again you come at a second round and look at those flagged questions. Now I had a student, I'm just advising you, I had a student, a brilliant student, but P2 exam she came down 10 times. Right? And I was also wondering what to do, because she knew every exam technique, she knew the exam so well, but 10 times she came down in the exam. You know what happened? Every time when she unflags, she won't go and whenever she flags it, she won't go and unflag once she answers the question. Now you can answer the question. If you don't take that unflagged tick out, it will be considered as an incomplete question. And even though you are given the right answer, you will fail the exam, because it is considered as a unflagged. Any unflagged question is completed. Any flagged question is considered as an uncompleted answer. So you have to remember some of these things in your exam techniques, because the next time when she did, I think she got out of 150, 130 or something. She was making a stupid mistake of not doing that unflagging after answering the question. So these are little things we will talk about once they are closer to the exam. If you look at the ABC, the hierarchy, the activities, we can define it under 4 different levels. One is what we call unit level activity. One we call batch related activity, product sustaining activity, and facility sustaining activity. So famous examiners question this area, where she puts up some questions like that, and she will ask whether it is a unit level activity, whether it's a batch level activity, and that kind of a thing. So we should know a little bit about each of these. So the expenditure what we consume, if that expenditure is happening or the activities are going to happen in every time when a unit is produced, that is called a unit level activity. So every time when we produce something, there is expenditure happening. For example, direct labor, right? It is surely it's activity based, but that's not an overhead. It's a direct labor, direct material. Sometimes the energy cost, right? Every time when you produce a particular unit, you need to consume two kilowatts of electricity or whatever. So like that, you have to find out the activities that are performed each time a unit is produced. So operation, surgery, right? Each time a surgery is performed, certain activities need to be done, and those are what we call unit level activity. Then we have second one, what we call batch related activity. So here the activity happens not at a particular unit level, not when you produce a unit, it is for a particular batch. Maybe the way that you enter data, right? You batch and enter data. So it's what we call a batch processing, and the activity happens for every batch. So whether there are 10 units in the batch or 100 units on the batch, it does not matter. It is the batch that is matters. For each batch that there is a kind of a activity happening. For example, the machine setup time. Machine setup time can be as a batch. It can be for a run of 10 or 5,000 units, and it is always the activity happens not for the per unit but for the batches. So another example that they have quoted is purchase in order process, right? Independent of the number of units included in the purchase order, whether you're ordering 10 units, 100 units, 200 units, it is the purchasing orders, the number of purchasing orders that is causing the activity move up or down, and that's what a batch related activity. Then we have product sustaining activity. So these are simply, it does not have anything to do with a unit or a product or a batch or anything like. It is basically, it's something irrespective of the units produced, irrespective of the batches being produced, you have to incur certain activity. The good example is product design. Whether you produce 1 unit, whether you produce 10,000 batches, it just doesn't matter. There is that product sustaining activity, which is irrespective of the number of units, number of batches, the cost is incurred, activity is happening, and that kind of a thing is what we call product sustaining activity. So examples are product design cost, advertising costs, etc. It generally tends to increase as the number of products manufactured increase. More products that is being designed, the cost will increase, the activity will increase. If you are producing one particular product, it will be only one product sustaining activity. So that's the third one. So unit, batch, product sustain. Fourth one is what we call facility. So it has nothing to do with the product line or the service what we are providing, but simply there are things like overheads what we need to incur irrespective of the number of units or number of batches or even the number of products. Things like building maintenance, property, plant, security, rates, maintenance, all that is, those are activities we have to do in order to sustain the facility. So this is, at least there are, you get about 3 to 4 questions on this area in your 60-mark paper. And will you give me a second, Danushka?
Yes.
Hello? Yes. Okay. ඒක දුන්නත් මට ලේසි නේ ඒපල. අද හවසේදී කමන්නේ. මම නැතර රොෂන් ඉන්නවා ගෙදර. ඕකේ මම right here. Okay. අනේ මම දැන් ගෙදර ඉන්නවා. මම නවල්ට යනවා. හැබැයි මම okay right. Okay right. Right, sure, right. Okay. Right. Sorry. So, these are the type of costs that we incur, and so definitely we must know what is unit level, what is batch level, etc. This is very important. So, I think we have already discussed a little bit about this one. When we say ABC relevant, ABC is a very expensive costing system to operate, and therefore it should be only introduced where indirect cost or overheads are very high, and the products or services are very complex, where you need very detailed costing. If it is a very simple job, I told you I was working in a company where basically we were doing little bit of recruitment. Now it's not a very complex one. So trying to introduce ABC in an environment like that is a crazy thing. So some people, they think that ABC should be introduced just because the other company is doing, we also should be doing. But ABC, we have to understand, it's a very, very expensive costing system, and it should be introduced where indirect costs are proportionately very high, and the product or services are very complex, and the products or services are somewhat custom made. It is made to the customer requirement. So there you need some kind of an accurate costing for the job specific. That's a good area for ABC to be introduced. And where some products are sold in large numbers, but some in small numbers. So when you have a mixed kind of a sale, some are large quantity sales, some are small quantity sales, I think the activity-based costing can become very clear. What are the advantages? Obvious advantages. It's a very better, accurate, I don't say very good, I think it's a better, accurate system of costing. You will understand your cost much more better because it talks about your activity and the cost. So the cost behavior can be better understood through the ABC, and for cost control purposes, that will be a good tool because we can use that one very strongly to do a better cost control. Should be used in ideally in very complex situations. Last line is a very, very important one. Always the examiner has some question in this area. It can be applied in service industry very much. And it is being applied in the service industry to a great extent, because originally when the ABC was introduced, it was always thought it is for only goods. But now it is for goods and services both. We can apply the ABC. So it's definitely an advantage scenario for any one of us to use the ABC. Having spoken the advantages, a couple of disadvantages, not always relevant. As I said, if your overheads are little 5%, 10% of your total cost, not worth going into too details to analyze that 5%, 10%, because you are not going to find too much of relevancy in that one. Still, we have to do some arbitrary cost allocation, because still we have to find out the cost driver, still we have to find out the cost pools. So the cost pools need to be allocated still on arbitrary basis. Like for example, the rent, maybe still we might take the floor area or whatever, the number of people, if it's a canteen or something like that. And then we have one of the most difficult thing is to decide the appropriate driver. Now, if you are doing some activity-based costing in your company, you might decide this is the right appropriate, maybe the number of policies issued. Another person might think it is the number of claims that is processed. So there can be many things, neither can be right, neither can be wrong, but it can make things little bit subjective. Very complex. I remember long time back, somewhere 1990s, I tried to do an activity-based costing exercise. I found it to be extremely complex that time, but today it's little bit easy because there is a lot of software available. The computers are geared to do activity-based costing, and therefore you can do it. But we have to understand it's a very, very expensive operation. You have to buy software, you have to work on the thing. So it's not a very easy thing using activity-based costing. So because of that, whenever we are thinking of using activity-based costing, we must be concerned about the cost benefit. What we want to say is always that anything that what we introduce, we must be thinking of the cost consciousness. Cost consciousness. Because a lot of people don't worry about the cost, and that is silly. Anything what we are going to look at, we must say the cost versus benefit. And so, if it is very expensive, what is the benefit we are going to get? We must look at all the time that kind of scenario. The moment you switch off to ABC from a traditional costing, one big thing that comes up is the pricing can be more realistic, because your costing is very, very much more accurate than the traditional costing. So the pricing will be very, very realistic. Sales strategy can be more sound, because sometimes when you have done the wrong costing, you might find that your people, the sales people, are struggling to do the sales because your price is overpriced. Or sometimes they are overselling because your price is underpriced. So the sales strategy can become more sound, more appropriate when we have good costing. Decision making surely will improve because we know how the cost behavior happens, what activity takes the cost. So we can look at, if you are looking for cost control, we can look at in which activities should we be looking to cut down, and also performance measures. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we must measure the performance of each and every section, each and every person. Those things can become much more improved with the switching off. Simply the behind the story is more accurate costing, but expensive. With that, we have now come to the end of our activity-based costing part of the work. Right? The next topic what I'm going to look at is world-class manufacturing. I'll see whether we can, if we can find time, we will do a little bit on the questions also, but otherwise you will do the questions. But I'm going to move into the next setup in your syllabus, what we call modern business environment. This is also something which you have discussed, which you know, but I'm only trying to emphasize on certain things on this area, the modern business manufacturing environment. So, if you really look at the way that the business is operating today, and if you look at some of the businesses maybe before you were born, 30 years, 40 years back, you will see how the things have got changed from that era to this era, right? That era we used the traditional costing because we knew the costing was not proper, not really accurate, but it did not matter too much because the mistakes we could make was not too big, and even if the mistake was there, still we could still sell our product services because there was not too much of competition as what we face today in the world. But today we live in an environment that is changing very quickly and somewhat in a very unpredictable way. None of us can predict what's going to happen in next 5 years time. The things are, so rapidly changing. The computers are coming. People are working many things. So therefore, it's very, very difficult for us to predict anything. The competitors are entering the market at a rapid rate, which was not the scenario earlier. You can see, if you look at our own country, Sri Lanka, you can see how many supermarkets are there, how many restaurants are there. Ask your parents, ask your grandparents how many restaurants are there, right? They will just say, only we have only few restaurants. But today, so many five-star hotels, some more hotels are coming up, and what we can say is it's a huge kind of a environment which the things are changing, lot of rivalry in everything, and therefore any business should be able to react to these situations and to react to the buyer needs because they have become very critical success factor. So remember what is a critical success factor? Critical success factor is something which we need to get it right all through. We can't afford to make a mistake. So that's what we call a critical success factor. So for every business, we must identify what are the critical success factors. Now, if you look at a hospital, Dhanusha, what is the critical success factor in a hospital? Critical success factor is something which have to be right all the time. I mean, you can't afford to have a mistake in that area. In a hospital, for example, what is the most important factor?
The surgery.
Surgery? Yeah, not that everyone goes for surgery.
And the medicines.
Medicine, yes. When you go to a hospital, right, you might decide to go to Derns, you might decide to go to Navalapa, you might decide to go to Lanka Hospital. What makes that decision to go to Lanka hospitals instead of going to some other place? Why? What is the critical success factor? Why don't we go to this hospital?
The service they provide.
Yeah, service is
also
quality
of the service.
Quality of the service is very important. But I think the most critical success factor is the availability of good doctors, isn't it? The good doctors. Because there are a lot of hospitals with all the beautiful facilities, but people don't go. Cheap also sometimes, but people don't go because they don't have the good doctor. But some places, not so nice, you have to go and wait in hours, but still people go Because they are the places where we have the best doctors coming up, isn't it? So for a hospital, the what must go right all the time is the doctors. Look at the airline. Now, when you want to fly, what do you look at the number one factor?
The in a airline.
Yeah, in airline, now you want to fly tomorrow. What will you look at as the number one factor before you think of booking the ticket?
Safety.
Yeah, definitely. Safety, isn't it? Even if you are told that some flight is given free, you will not fly unless you know the safety, isn't it? Safety is the number one importance for an airline. So we must, in each and every business, you have to identify what is your critical success factor. Now, insurance, for example, your business. What is the most critical success factor? For people to buy your insurance cover, what is the most critical success factor for your organization?
The reliability.
Yeah, reliability or credibility, isn't it? Credibility, right? What you promise, what your people promise must be delivered. If you promise and if you don't deliver, people will not come and buy your insurance. So all the time the credibility is very important, the reliability, yeah, right? So like that, every business must look at what are the critical success factor, and always it has to be something from the buyers or the customer's point of view. So because of that, that critical success factor or what the customer needs can change all the time, and therefore we who are manufacturing goods, who are manufacturing services, we need to constantly review and redesign our products accordingly. That is why you can see airlines upgrading their things, hospitals are upgrading their things, hotels are upgrading their things, insurance companies are coming out with new policies, trying to attract the young people, trying to attract a certain segment of the society. All that is being done because, you know, if you want to survive in that kind of thing, you have to continuously redesign and continuously review your product. This is the change which was not there 40 years back. 40 years back, you don't need to worry too much. Customer did not have too many choices, and therefore you can just go on doing whatever you are doing. The customer will have to just come to your restaurant and have a meal. That's all, nothing else. But today, it's not that. Even the 5-star hotels, they have to compete with each other hotel, because there are so many 5-star hotels in Colombo, and people can, you know, decide to go to this hotel, that hotel, wherever, for weddings or whatever it may be. And also, we have to shorten the time to market the product in order to make satisfactory return. The time period we have when we decide to launch a product, between the time that we decide to launch and to launch the product will have to be short. You don't have 3 months, 6 months period, because if you delay, your competitor will come before you and introduce the product to the market. So simply what it means is customer satisfaction is the overriding priority, and therefore greater focus on quality on the production than cost of production. Our time, it was always cost control. Still you might find some of these old managers in the various places looking all the time for cost. But today it is not the cost. Cost is important, but the primary concern is not the cost. Primary concern is the quality. The product material. People are going for quality. People are going for health. People are going for health and safety. People are prepared to pay double the price and buy so-called organic vegetables, because the people are very, very concerned about the quality. People want the bottled water when they go to a hotel or a restaurant, right? One, of course, may be for prestige. Other one is for safety. People don't want to go outstation and drink water. They will take water from Colombo in the bottle, this thing. So generally, any company that can adopt to these changes immediately, the moment it comes, once you can adopt it, these are the companies what we call world-class manufacturers. Now in Sri Lanka, the company like John Case, the company like Eaton Spence, they are in that category. They can adopt to the business environment. They are the people who started with something else, but now moved into many areas. And I think in the recent past, the SoftLogic group, they are the companies that have adapted to the changes in the business world and have started many new areas. And our Uttara is one person who really initiated in Sri Lanka this kind of a dynamic change, but we can see it happening all over the world. Basically, if you look at the world-class manufacturers, how they are going, cost is important. There is no one to say cost is not important. Cost is a very important competitive weapon. Whenever we price it, we must be very conscious that our price is a very competitive price. Low-cost producers will have definitely an advantage. You remember in your E2, you would have come across something called Porter's competitive advantage. There are two ways but you can get the competitive advantage. One is the cost leadership, where you go very hard on cost management. Second one is what we call differentiation strategy. You produce something totally different, and that, because it is so unique, we can charge a higher price and we can have a competitive advantage. So we can see when you go to certain places, at certain times you go to certain places, you know it's very expensive, but we know you get a quality product. But sometimes when you want a cheaper thing, you go and bargain and bargain and bargain and buy the cheaper thing. So cost is only one competitive advantage, and in the recent past, what we are saying is cost is not all that important. It is important, but it is not all that important. Other dimensions have come up into stay much. You will not fly airline even if it is given cheaper or whatever, if there is no safety, if there is no reliability of time, etc., etc., etc. Right? So because of that, we need to know the product reliability, the product innovations. New products must come all the time. You will see when you go to the supermarket, all the time you get lot of new products coming up. Even the old products, they come up in new package, new this thing. We can see these biscuits and all that. It's almost the same thing, but they come out with new things all the time, right? And time to market and flexibility to respond to customer needs. So these are the new scenarios the business will have to deal with. Greater diversity means shortened product life cycles. Can you remember the product life cycle, Dhanusha, that what we go through normally? 4 stages of the life cycle, yes?
Yeah, introduction.
Introductory, yes. Growth,
maturity,
and decline. Those days, when a product was introduced, it stays in the market for a longer period, right? So you can recover your cost over a long period. But today we can see the product life cycle is very short. The people are changing the products very fast. Buy a phone, you don't want to keep it for 6 months, 9 months, you want to change it to a new model, right? So vehicles, today you buy 2 years, you want to change the vehicle, right? So everything is changing so fast, the life cycle of a product has declined a lot. That is because there is lots of products coming into the market. This is what we call diversity. So this is why we can't dedicate a product or a plant for mass scale production for next 5 years. So actually, even though we learn net present value and all that, we see they are becoming completely outdated because we can't plan for 5 years. We don't know what's going to happen in 5 years, right? We can't even plan it for 1 year today. Our Prime Minister is trying to do a lot of work, but he's finding very, very difficult because things are changing so fast in the international arena, in the local arena. So it's difficult for them to do so much of things. So therefore, the way to go forward is to introduce new products at minimum cost. That is what the business is doing continuously. This is why we have such a huge element of expenditure, what we call research and development, continuous development of new products. What are the challenges in this new environment? The challenge is to offer high quality goods at cheapest possible price. So this is why we have to have efficient people. Automation, how we do these things is through new technology. Because we know when we try to work with people, people can become absent, people can become moody, people can become careless. So we try to work through machines now, what was done by the earlier people. Now you can see this happening in the CIMA exams. Earlier CIMA exams, every paper was marked by a person, a human being. But today you sit for the paper, immediately you will know whether you have got through the exam or not. The computer has replaced the examiner. Computer has replaced the marking person. So no moods for the computer. So I remember I was doing some marking the Chartered Institute some time back. You know, in the morning when you start, you are very fresh. You can, you will go through the answers and mark it. But at about 2 o'clock after lunch, when you come and when you try to correct the papers, your strength is not the same. So you are not going to read the answers very well. If you will read it halfway through. If you find it's good, you might pass. If you find the initial things are not good, you might just put a fail. But computers won't do that kind of a thing. Computers don't have moods. Computers don't sleep at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So computers will have a very consistent method to see what Dhanusha has done, what Kumar has done. Computer can look at and be impartial. That is why we use the computer. So this is why we have a lot of new technology, new techniques all the time. So generally, in terms of quality, design, performance, reliability, so we can see in the worldwide companies like Toyota, BMW, they use not only worldwide, even in Sri Lanka, the companies are now using this WCM very heavy. And any company that is using this kind of new technology will have to keep heavily investing on research and development, heavily invest on new product designs, heavily invested on computer-aided designs, computer-aided manufacturing, etc. And these are the organizations that go for total quality management, just-in-time manufacturing, and these are what we call simply advanced manufacturing technology. So this is what we find in the world today demand. So what are the characteristics of this environment? Surely you can see we use in all these things lot of automation, lot of global environment. Today you are not restricted to selling your things in Sri Lanka. You are not even restricted to buy things from Sri Lanka. You can go to eBay and buy anything from anywhere in the world from through eBay. So you don't need to get tuition. Only in Sri Lanka, you can go online and take tuition from any part of the world. Almost, you are one of the few that I have in Sri Lanka. Almost my students come from the world, right? So they are from UK, they are from USA, they are from America, they are from Australia, they are from Malaysia. all over the world, because they don't Dubai, they don't need to wait for their own tutors. They can now come and get online tuition. You can go and buy your dress through eBay from any part of the world. So you don't need to worry about Sri Lanka market. And therefore businesses need to be worried about the whole thing. They need to be worried about the global market. And emphasis on cost reductions and not cost control. Reduction means you try to see how the things can be reduced without compromising the quality. This is what I call value analysis. They are almost today customer focused. Ask your grandparents, those days the shop seller was, or the restaurant keeper was not bothered about the customer, because they just keep it, take it or leave it kind of attitude. Because we have no choice, we have to just go to them for whatever the things what we need. Those days when you go to a bank, you have to just wait in the bank queue for many hours, because the bank had the influence, not the customer. But today when you go to a bank, the manager will walk into you and ask why, what happened, what do you want, sir, what do you want, madam, all that kind of thing. Because we need to be custom oriented all the time. We need to have very flexible production systems. We can't just say, okay, I can only give you order only in the month of April. No. If the customer wants it tomorrow, we should be ready to give it tomorrow. And for that purpose, we have to have a lot of employee participation. This is why we have something called HR, right? HR department was never there in 1970s. HR came somewhere in 1980s or late 80s or early 1990s. HR came because we need to train people. Those days there were no training. You employ a person, you tell her what to do, and till she reaches 65, she will go on doing that thing. I remember I joined a company in 1980s, 70s, and there was a man, old man. So I called him and asked him, what are you doing? He said, I'm writing checks. I asked, how long you have been writing checks? For 25 years he is writing checks. And he only knows to write checks. But today we will see, you don't get that kind of people. People are trained to do anything and everything. This is why we have employee participation, sometimes what we call empowerment. Empowerment. Shorter life product cycles, we have to understand, we can't produce a product thinking that the product will be there for 10 years. We have to think all the time, shorter life cycle products all the time in these companies today what we are working. And of course, quality has become a prime important. No company can work without focusing on quality. Whether it is restaurant, whether it's a airline, whether it is whatever hospital, in every situation we need to have the quality coming up all the time, and that is a very, very important thing for all of us. So these are some of the things that we need to be emphasizing today, modern business. I put a lot of things, but I'll share this one with you. But it is simply mostly it's computer systems that is working for us, and it's all about individual products, standardization all the time, and also continuously develop new products. These are the things that we should be looking all the time. The new trends we have. The new trends, if you really look at, you can see it is all about having a diverse product range. The earlier companies, they produce only one product, biscuits or biscuits, chocolates or chocolates, or whatever, that's all. But today it is not that one. If you look at companies like SoftLogic, how many things they do? They do almost everything like, right? Why is that? That is purely because they know that's the way to go forward. and generally a high level of tailor-made products and services. The products that what you need, what the company needs, will be produced all the time. The customers need. This is what they will be producing all the time. And standard costing has becoming very irrelevant. It is becoming not very important today. The reason being that we have lot of scenarios where we had to work through the scenarios. The standard costing is becoming irrelevant, because standard costing is good where you are producing standard quantities, standard quality. But today we live in a world not standard quality. We must be always looking what the customer wants and continue to produce quality that way. And then the next one is not the cost that is important, quality is important all the time, and you don't produce standard product, you go on producing quality continuously improved product. So therefore, standard costing, the old way of doing things are becoming totally relevant or less relevant, I would say. This is a very important term. I think we discussed this last time. Basically, the total quality management. This is one of the modern business thing. Total means everyone in the value chain is involved in the process of quality. Now, what is a value chain, Danushka? What do you mean by value chain?
Value chain is
Yeah, value chain is now to create a product, right? Ultimately, to give you a product of your dress or whatever, it goes through many chains, from the procurement of raw materials to packing, processing, cutting, everything. And finally, the last link of the value chain is the customer. Ultimately, the customer must be satisfied with the product. And if you are going to buy a dress, that dress has gone through many chains. Some person would have ordered the material, some person would have done the design, some person would have done the stitching, cutting, everything. It goes through a process of value additions, and through all that only ultimately the company will produce a product, and finally the value is achieved only when the product is sold to the customer. So the value chain starts from your suppliers to the inside the company and finally to the customer. Now to reach the customer, the value chain will have to go through shops or distributors or through delivery. So all that is what we call the value chain, right? So the value chain is that. So whenever we have a value chain, the quality means everyone in the value chain is concerned about the quality. Everyone in the value chain is concerned about the quality. The supplier is concerned about your quality. Your machine operator is concerned about your quality. Your customer is concerned about the quality. If the quality is not good, the customer will tell, hi Danushka, your quality is not good. So everyone is interested in the quality. This is what we call total. Quality means, quality is something that meets the customer requirement. As I told you, it's not what you think as quality. It is not the standard quality what you want to produce. We have to look at what is the quality what the customer wants. When you go to a restaurant, the chef can't say, no, I have prepared the food according to my quality. No. We have to see whether is the customer satisfied with the quality of the product, food that he is giving. Right? Management is simply everyone in the quality control, in the quality process, everyone is involved Basically, the idea is to proactively manage quality. So we prevent things happening. We prevent rejections happening. So I want you to note down the next one, which is a very famous examiner question. The key principles of DQ. Get it right first time. The idea is you don't wait till everything is done and to find, oh my God, this is wrongly strict, and again we have to go and redo it. No, no, no. We do from the very first moment we do it, so get it right first time. Second one, quality means continuous improvement. This is what you call Kaizen system, continuous improvement. We are never happy with what we have achieved. We want to do better, better, better. In a way, it's a good thing. In a way, it's a bad thing because it applies a lot of pressure on the people because people are not appreciated for what they have done. People are told, yes, but you need to do better. So that is what we call continuous improvement. And customer focus. All the time, customer is at your very heart. Whatever we produce, we want to look at from a customer's point of view. The total quality.
Can you excuse me for a minute?
Yeah, sure. Yes.
Sorry, sir.
Okay, ready. Right. Okay. Right. So when you look at total quality management principles, the three principles. One is get it right first time. In other words, what we want is zero rejects. We may not achieve zero rejects, but that is what we are trying to get all the time. Zero rejects. Because the total quality management is somewhat connected with just in time. What is just in time? We produce goods or services just in time when the customer needs it. So customer needs goods tomorrow morning. So we start producing today because we have to ship the goods tomorrow morning, right? So we don't have time to produce the goods and later on to see, oh my gosh, it is not good. So we have to go and again redo it. We don't have time to do it. So therefore, we have to get it right first time. And continuous improvement means we are never happy and say, oh, Janusha, you have done a good job. No. When you are in a TQM environment, when you are in a Kaizen environment, they will never say that you have done something good. They will say, yes, but you have to do better. You have to do better. It can be somewhat very frustrating also because you do your very best, but your boss says you have to do better. And this is what the this is a Japanese technique. They found it extremely stressful. However much they do, they are not appreciated. So in a way, Japan, I think, has some largest number of suicides because the people are very unhappy. Whatever they do, the people are never appreciated. So this is what the good side of it, but is the bad side of continuous improvement. Always quality is customer focused. From the customer's perspective, it is not about meeting our own standards. It is always meeting customer standards and customer expectations. So in an organization, whenever we have total quality management, it must be applied throughout the whole organization. From top to bottom, everyone must get involved in the process of quality processes. So from top to bottom, and the top must totally get committed for this activity. The CEO and the lower end, the CEO and the executive directors should be committed to the quality. And the middle management, they are the people who are going to communicate the total quality management strategies to their subordinates and also monitor what the quality is and appropriately reward them. So to do that one, what we have is what we call a quality circle. Quality circle is simply a couple of people getting together on a volunteer basis. They are there to, basically their job is to identify, investigate, and come out with some solutions for quality problems on a regular basis. So they will try to identify what are our quality issues. They will investigate those quality issues and come out with solutions to the management. They can't implement the solutions. They will recommend the solutions to the management. Now it is the management's baby to implement those recommendations. So it's a voluntary approach, it's a team approach, and it is the way to solve the problems inside the company through volunteer approach. But of course they will expect a big support from the management. The quality circles will fail when the management does not support them. I remember there was a P2 question some time back in the earlier syllabus. The people suggested, the quality circle suggests us something, because a lot of people are coming from outstation to that workplace, and when they come on Monday morning, their mind is still at home, and on Friday evenings their mind is to go to home, and therefore very little output Monday morning, very little output Friday evening. So what they suggested was to start work on Monday afternoon, or rather measure work from Monday afternoon and work till Friday morning, but to cover up that extra loss by working additional hours on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. Right? But the management disregarded it. Management said, no, that is additional overtime, additional electricity, additional overheads, and they disregarded. So the quality circle was very unhappy because their thing was not even tested. Not that you have to always implement it, but at least you must give a try and see whether it is going to work it out. So this is what the quality circle is. The TQM approach, you must have a quality circle. It's a voluntary approach, it's a team approach, and it is a kind of finding solutions to your problems, and they will recommend the solutions, but implementation is with management. So I want to talk about another term. We talked about what we call Kaizen thing. Kaizen thing is continuous improvement. What is a continuous improvement? Every day you do little improvement. The other side of this is what we call business process re-engineering. Business process re-engineering is simply a one-off big radical changes. Right? You think this is not the way for us to go, and you make big changes. So whenever we are making big changes, we have to have a change management coming up. It's not little changes. It's a big change once and for all what we do, and that's what we call a BPR. So BPR is one change, big change. Continuous improvements, or the Kaizen system is small change, continuous. So BPR is concerned with one-off changes. It's a collection of activities, and it will examine the business process radically, redesign the processes, and do. BPR is about major changes, how the business will operate. We come to a very important one, quality cost. Quality cost is quality related cost. So we know the quality is very important. If you don't maintain quality, your product will not be accepted in the market. Products will get rejected in the market. So the quality cost can be classified under 4 categories. This is also another very famous examiner's area. Prevention cost, appraisal cost, internal failure cost, external failure cost. So there is generally we spend lot of money, the organizations, on high cost because we have poor quality. Remember, long time back, Toyota introduced a particular vehicle. It failed in the market, and they had to pull all the vehicles out the market. They had to recall the vehicles, give a new replacement, and that was a very, very high cost for the company. So quality cost can be divided into two main areas, conformance cost and non-conformance cost. Conformance cost is basically because you incur some cost at the initial stages, your quality will conform to the expected quality. So there are two conformance costs, one we call prevention cost, one we call appraisal cost. Now, for example, if you recruit right people, if you recruit quality CIMA accountants, you will not have problems with your preparation of financial statement. They will come right. But if you recruit wrong, unqualified people to prepare your financial statements, they also will prepare. But once they prepare, it will be wrong, and then you have to get another people to set a prepare and another set of people to do it, additional cost. So you can prevent that cost by having good, right people. You can prevent quality failures by having right material, by having right people, by having right machines. So that is what we call prevention cost. It is initially what we incur to prevent mistakes happening. Then appraisal cost. During the process, we continue to check the quality before it finally come out of the product line. You don't wait till the product comes out of the product line and to say, oh my gosh, we have failed to put the pocket on the right hand side, we have put the pocket on the left hand side, or whatever it may be. Right? So that's a kind of a cost what we can incur, which will give us a kind of a assurance that before the product comes out of the product line, that we will have the right quality set up all. Then we have, there are four types of costs. The quality related, as I said, the prevention, it's at the very initially right staff, right material, right machines. Appraisal is all the time continuously monitoring the quality and the output. Then we have the internal failure cost. You have produced the good, but the product is not good. Then you have to go and redo it. Sometimes the product is so bad, you have to just scrap it, waste. So that's another additional cost, internal failure. If you miss that one, what will happen is the product will go to the market. And once the product goes into the market, that is going to be a huge cost. You have sent the wrong product to the market, then you have to have your warranties, guarantees coming up, and not only that, your reputation will suffer a lot because the people will complain saying that your product is not good. So that is a big cost. So you can see, if you spend little on prevention, you might spend more on appraisal. If you spend fairly well on prevention and appraisal, you might not spend too much on internal failure. But if you don't spend enough on prevention and appraisal, you might spend lot on internal failure. If you fail on internal failure also, finally you will spend on external failure. So any increase in expenditure of prevention and appraisal is likely to result in a significant reduction of failure. Get the right material, get the right people, work through the right structures, you will not have too many internal failures, you will not have too many external failures. But if you don't spend enough on prevention and appraisal, your cost on internal failure, external failure can be very heavy. So one of the questions that we will have all the time in our paper is they will give certain questions and ask Is this an internal failure cause? Is this an external failure cause? That kind of a thing. So we will try to discuss some of these things. What I would look at is, I have sent you some questions on the activity-based costing. Start doing it. Don't worry if you make mistakes. Start doing it. Right? And if you can send me some of the answers before we meet next, then I can correct it and we can look at something on that day. Will it be possible for you to do some of those questions, Dhanushka?
Yeah.
Yeah? Do it. Don't worry even whether you mistake or not, it's all right. Do it. Send me the answers. Then we will look at those things and work it. Shall we make it next Monday again?
Yeah.
Shall we make it next Monday, same time, 11 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So what I'll do is I'll send you these things also for you and look at, I think I have a little bit more to do on standard cost. Yes, so we will do little some of these things. It's a very important month. So we will do these things, but we will meet on Monday.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions you have?
No, sir.
Clear everything for you so far?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay, thanks. So I will see you on Monday morning then again. Okay. Bye. Thank you. Take care. Have a great day.
Yes.
Bye.